Good soon to be lunchtime. My name is Katarina Wangler Björk. I'm so pleased to be here and meet you all who are here, but also you who are online. I'm with Doconomy, with my beloved colleague, CEO.
Hello everyone, Mathias Wikström. I'm the CEO and co-founder of Doconomy. Happy to be here today with Katarina and parts of the Doconomy team and all of our partners, working to drive global climate inclusions by providing digital tools to track, measure and reduce.
And I thought of a thing this morning. I have a 25 years anniversary now this month. So if you just think about what did you do 25 years ago? I was 25, that says something about my age, but I also attended my first COP. It was in Kyoto, and the Kyoto Protocol was developed and approached. And at that time, I was a young, 25, activist, a youth delegate, part of the Swedish delegation, and I was a bit angry with the outcome. But looking at it, 25 years after, I could see that there was a historical moment that I actually was part of. And at that time, the COP and the engagement around climate change wasn't that wide, even though we still needed to become wider. So what I couldn't really grasp at that time was that climate change was actually going to be real within 25 years. I would be able to feel the temperature change, not to see the snow at home every winter, to tell my kids that you might not be able to see winters in Stockholm. And that's from my part of the world. Many people and many communities in many regions are much harder hit by climate change, as we know, with the disasters this year and the last few years, and whatever comes with that. Anyway, that was a historic moment, and a lot of things has happened, even though it's not enough. And during those 25 years, we have become much closer as a community because of the globalization, because of the digitalization, because of coming together and be able to form the Agenda 2030. So since then, a lot has happened when it comes to set a common target, common purpose, and work together, even still complex. And we have a much easier way of connecting and interconnecting as humans, as citizens, as businesses, as communities, regions, nations. And that is also what I think that we can tap into. How can we drive this climate action going forward? We are interconnected. We have the opportunities with the pandemic that still is on and brought a lot of bad things, but we also learned that we can change things very fast. We can connect very fast. The digitalization speed up exponentially during the pandemic. So we have got much more tools now than we did just only a few years ago. And I would say that since during all our history, I think that human beings have been seeking for convenience, seeking for better life, not only by convenience, but also for our curiosity. And now it's time to take that curiosity and bring us together, because we need to be the catalyst for this change. We've done it before. We've done it with industrialization. We've done it with digitalization. We took a very global approach and a global crisis with the pandemic, so we know how to change things. We know how to disrupt things. We know how to make decisions and make it fast. So it's time to do it with climate action now. And I don't think so that sometimes I'm asking who is in charge, and we talk about it. Is it the consumers, or is it the citizens? Is it global north? I think we all are in our position as individuals, as citizens, as business leaders, employees, what can you do? You need to look around and see what is my context? How can I change my behavior? How can I impact my neighbors, my friends, my businesses, my government, my municipality? What channels do I have? And how can I be in charge of those and be the catalyst?
So we're looking at the limited time to achieve this. When you think about 2030 and the 1.5 degree limit, it might feel somewhat distant. We're talking about 86 months to reduce with 50%. 86 months to agree on how to do it. 86 months to also do it. 86 months to bring everyone on board with great respect for climate justice, bringing climate literacy to life, and making sure that this is an inclusive climate action. And looking at what we're trying to do at Doconomy, I think our ambition that is always at the core of what we are trying to achieve is climate literacy. In order to make reasonable demands, in order to be able to adjust, you need to be educated, and everyone should have the same right. What we are looking at is the intersection of data, technology, and design. When we started Doconomy, we were sick and tired of sustainability efforts looking like crap. We wanted it to kick Apple out of the stores. That's the kind of design level that we've been looking at. Out of a user experience, it needed to be engaging, it needed to be rewarding, and it needed to be educating. We have the data, we have the tech, we have the design. 86 months, I would say it's only the courage and the leadership that's missing. So, this is a simple, on the back of a napkin formula that we use Monday mornings in Sweden in January when it's freezing cold outside and you really don't want to get out of bed, and try to do your best to bring climate action into every corner of the world. But we think that hope is a function of data-driven insights that's multiplied in actions over and over and over and over again. And we will repeat this a few times. But we think it's naive to have the ambition for a few to do everything. We would rather see everyone having the opportunity to do something. And with the aggregation of marginal gain, that formula is going to work in our favor for 86 months. So, climate literacy is at the core of what we do. Digital tools is the platform and the vehicle for that. But if you think about it, isn't it really a new kind of infrastructure that we need? We use concrete to build bridges for infrastructure around mobility. That has served us well. Today we're looking at another kind of infrastructure that needs to be put into place. An infrastructure around transparency, making transparency the new infrastructure of the future, carrying hope, carrying trust, carrying capabilities instead of cars and buses and people. And if we can make transparency part of the infrastructure of tomorrow, everyone will be able to contribute. Starting out with Doconomy, 7 years ago, we calculated the carbon intensity per transaction on your payment card. The precision in that was a little bit boxy, but the distribution was tremendous. Overnight, all of your transactions could give you an idea around your carbon footprint per your purchase and your spending's representation in that category. Working side by side with the team at MasterCard ever since start, developing the Åland Index with a small bank in Finland called Ålandsbanken, we have seen this metric and this tool now reaching all over the world, activating over 40, almost 50 banks to come, reaching through their network over 700 million users, starting a dialogue, getting conversation going, getting CO2 into the main frame of our everyday life, proving Newton's third law that every action has a reaction. There is a consequence to our activities. When we started, we didn't fully realize how important educational perspective around this needed to be. In order for our partners to dare go the extra mile, to dare present and provide their users with this score, a planetary score in addition to the monetary impact, they also need a handrail in the dialogue that is shaping the actions of those users for tomorrow. Today we are very happy to see this spreading around the world as a beacon of hope in regard of educating yourself. We took data, leading financial market data, that was used in multi-billion-dollar transactions, put it at the fingertips of the consumers, and we had the consumers understand how they could lessen or diversify their impact. Now, I'm very happy to see there's many competitors to us popping up around the world and also doing good stuff. This is not a one-man band. This is not a one-person effort. We need the effort of everyone in order to get this done. Today we're working out of Stockholm. We have offices in Tokyo, thanks to the Tokyo Metropolitan Government funding our introduction into the Japanese market. We have the first card in the Japanese market going live with Sasson, first ever in Japan. We just recently set up in New York, entering into the US, supporting our friends in the financial services industry and the brands and every individual and beyond. Having the opportunity to work with a very committed team under the leadership of Ben Stewart at Bank of the West, picking the fight, doing this, getting it to the market, challenging the status quo. When the former president of the US pulled out of the Paris Agreement, Bank of the West made billboards saying, now you can enter into your own individual Paris Agreement, following basically the same principles: track, measure, and reduce. Who would have thought that a credit card could be a vehicle, a textbook for change? Perhaps because we connected it to what so many people care so much about, which is money. And if money is the distribution of this impact metric, I think we're onto something at scale. Today, our partners and investors reach over 787 million end users. We are working with 40 banks, touching 50, and we are readily available in 25 countries and growing. It's pathetic to be at COP27 in Egypt and not have anything live on the African continent. That's a failure. That's something we need to address. That is something we need to work harder on. We can't stand here talking about climate inclusion without the ability to provide this service, these insights, this data to all and everyone. But working together with the UN, working together with the World Wildlife Fund, working together with MasterCard, working together with many of the leading banks and institutions in the world, we think that that is a forceful coalition of the willing, a go-to-market, a grassroots movement, bottoms up. If there is a sustainable markets initiative, this is a sustainability desiring initiative by the many. So, we have tools supporting this out of a digital perspective, engaging and enabling people to track, measure, reduce, compare with their peers, educate them around tips and tricks, reacting to specific transactions and the categories so that you can fully understand where this data leads. We believe there is hope on the horizon. Success in Africa will come as well. Every day we are being addressed by change makers, individuals in leading banks that understand that they are a tremendous power that can be used as a distribution of this understanding, driving substantial and sustainable change. This is just a few of the front runners that we are working with, that are daring to say, let's try for this, let's get this going, and let's see where this new dialogue leads. Not only how it enables the clients of these banks, but also what we need to do in order to be stepping up to this opportunity. We went live with Klarna about a year ago, overnight, reaching at the time 90 million users presenting a carbon footprint metric to each and every transaction. It's the largest ever carbon footprint literacy activity in the world. Is that enough? No. Is it a good start? I think so.
And what we're doing right now is to look at how and approach the small and medium-sized enterprises, because those are important. Those are 90% of the global businesses, and there's like 2 billion people employed by SMEs today. So there's a lot of power in them. There's a lot of powerhouses globally. And why is that important? Because, of course, it's an approach to future-proof their businesses by being more efficient, by being more attractive to large companies, since SMEs are part of the Scope 3 emissions for many of the large companies. So they're contributing in a much larger scale than their own business. And we have the honor of already having a few players with us, representing global players, but also in support of UNDP. So we're going there, and we have a really interesting journey in front of us.
What is it that we're doing with UNDP? I should know this.
Yeah, we're working together with their digital inclusion initiative and looking at opportunities how we can take this to the SMEs and micro SMEs in least developed countries. We're not there yet, but we're looking at it.
So a principle of this is going from banks representing retail clients, everyday usage, by each and every one of us having a digital transaction at hand, to using the same methodology to same or other banks wanting to address the SME clientele, because in the future there will be restrictions around how much you want to carry of someone else's impact. And with that said, we need to give all of the companies exporting to more developed markets the opportunity to serve that market without being disqualified. Now, this is a starting point. This is a proof of concept. It's spend-based calculations. And at a future stage, of course, activity-based calculations will need to come into play. But it's a way of showing and engaging the SMEs of the world in understanding their footprint in a very easy fashion. So what we're hoping to achieve with this is well-informed purchase decisions as well as procurement decisions for everyone. Looking at transparency as a core driver, talking about the infrastructure also in the inter-corporate relationships of tomorrow. So, some may think, what is this? It's only spend-based. In the greenhouse gas protocol, there's only 2 categories relevant spend-based calculations. The rest is activity-based. There's a lot of carbon accounting companies helping people understand where they are in the organizations that they work with, the status of today. What we wanted to do was to provide companies with opportunity to calculate the carbon footprint on product level, making sure that that was not a cost or a time issue for small companies. So we developed the 2030 calculator. It's a digital tool, calculates the cradle-to-gate impact of any product. Today we're working in 4 verticals, and we're very proud to be launching with Logitech a personal electronics vertical, and having their work and experience for many years labeling their products with a carbon impact, and also enabling all of their competitors, opening the doors to all of their experience and our experience, inviting them to do exactly the same. Now, is this the cure? It is maybe not the end stage, but it is a tool for comparability. And if there is no comparability, All of the impact data is just an opinion. We need comparability in order to achieve competitive edge. If you're comparable, you can win or lose. If you win, you can make money. And if we can make it profitable to mitigate the climate crisis will be mitigated in no time. Because capitalism is such a forceful driver putting us in this position to begin with. So, transparency enables responsibility, pre-production planning, going from the aggregation of your transactions to identify a ballpark of your impact, to pre-purchase decisions, directing the hand on the shelf to some products of lesser impact, unleashing the mindful consumption of the many, because all of a sudden there is a score. All of a sudden there is something to relate to. All of a sudden there is something to compare. But we didn't stop there.
We didn't stop there. We got an idea a couple of years ago, and actually the IPCC had the same idea, but a bit later than us. Most policy approaches are looking at technology improvements and technology as a solution to reach the climate targets. But the last years we've been looking at what do we need to enable behavioral changes? How can we create an infrastructure to do that? How can we make it easier for individuals to change their lifestyle? So together with UNFCCC, we launched the lifestyle calculator a year ago here at COP. And that's a platform for you to measure your lifestyle choices. And what that is what we've been talking about previously. To change something, you need to set your starting point. You need to know where are you and what kind of footprint do you have. What does your selection of choices, daily choices of food, of living, of traveling, or of shopping, what does that conclude in terms of carbon footprints? So we made a tool for making everyday choices count. And the data that we have, it's showing your behavior changes. And it also, this tool, helps you to find where are your hotspots. What is the most important thing that you could do and change in your life to improve your lifestyle into a lifestyle for tomorrow? And that is something we all can do. And it's free and it's available for everybody in over 150 countries.
Are you saying this is for free?
It's for free. And it takes 2 minutes. If you don't want to deep dive into it, it takes a few more minutes, and then you can get more granular data, more granular information on where you are and where you could go by small changes in your everyday lifestyle, together with your family, together with your friends and neighbors. So it's a good start.
I think it's important to give credit also where credit is due. This is a collaboration between the UNFCCC and Doconomy, working for quite a long time to get this to the market as an API and providing it to any organization or company that wants to educate their users around the effect of their lifestyle choices. We're very happy to see some of the front runners that we get to work with providing this on global level. And there's also an important point to make, I think, in the creation of this. There has, for a long time, been carbon footprint calculators available in the market. The most important part is that they need to be up to date. And if the organization providing this initial ambition, putting a carbon calculator to the market on your lifestyle choices, and it's not updated regularly with data that makes sense, and a lot of NGOs don't have those capabilities, then that calculator is going to show you a number that is not relevant where you're at in time. Our ambition was not only to make the most easily available and understandable calculator, but to also keep it consistently up to date using data of the highest integrity together with the UNFCCC. We're happy to see Craig Leeson doing the last glaciers, using this as an information piece, an education piece. MasterCard doing this in many different regions around the world, as well as ABN AMRO. Obviously, this is something that could be a baseline for any organization having this dialogue with their users. And that's why, to Katarina's point, we're providing this at cost. It shouldn't be an expense to understand your footprint.
Yeah, and also just to sum in there, just 3 weeks ago there was a research report published, and that was actually looking at the awareness globally about climate change, and that is still one of the main barriers to create climate action. So this is really needed. With the increased awareness individually as well as systematically, we could cross those barriers and actually achieve some results. So that is why it's important. And the IPCC in the report this spring also looked at like a 5% reduction made by behavior change in a short time period.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. We're trying to work intimately with leading academia and science to provide best-in-class data and experience and keep it up to date. There's so much, there's an ever-changing environment. This ecosystem is evolving at a rapid pace. Looking back 25 years ago when you were in Kyoto, but looking back 7 years ago when we did all on index, so much has happened over time. And so little has been achieved as well. So we need to keep an eye on the ball. And when we did the research around the SMEs in the world, wanting to, and this was conducted, I think, in 10 different countries around the world, half of the companies wanted to calculate their footprint and understand their impact of their operations. 8% did. So there is obviously an intention-action gap that needs to be bridged by transparency. But then we did something else. What good is a number if you can't act on it? So we developed Restore, which is a platform for consuming in a better informed way, providing brands with opportunity to share their progress. And if you have an understanding of your footprint and the hotspots of your impact, this platform can assist you in pointing in the right direction to service providers, to renewable energy providers, or to mobility providers with a lesser footprint. This is a POC. We launched it in June, and the interest has been great because there is also a distribution connect and a comparability disconnect that the Restore platform pretty much takes care of. Now, there is still many differences in what some people believe to be low impact and some other people believe to be low impact. So we still need to be very mindful and educated around what is it that we're saying, what is it that we are providing the opportunity around. But we need to start somewhere. We created this shared responsibility between consumers and producers in order for everyone to be able to contribute by their everyday actions, looking at identifying the greatest reduction potential with every purchase, looking at recommendations on where to go and why on this platform. We did this, and still doing it, with a few leaders in the Nordics, looking at everything from fashion to mobility to energy to food, and the interest has been tremendous. And it's also very encouraging to see all of these front runners putting their data on the table, saying this is how we have done it, for you to know and understand, and you can compare it with others, but this is our story. But of course, we also needed to think about the weather.
Yes, so we developed another tool, and we tend to work together because we see that we can't solve this ourselves, as you may have seen now. We have a lot of partners with us to come up with something. So we're looking at real-time national level emissions to track 2030 reduction progress. And how do we do that? we partnered up with a company called Kairos, French company, that has satellites and are able to measure the emissions real time and look at and compare them to the Paris Agreement. And we launched that. Yeah, we launched that was it in June?
It was we're at Stockholm Plus 50, the 50-year anniversary of the first environmental UN conference in Stockholm.
Yeah, and why is that? Yeah, because we believe that it's a democratic right to know your national level emissions. And why is that? We want to build on the ability to read emissions data as well as many people read financial data today, because we believe in creating climate literacy. So it's a democratic right to reach and understand where are we in relation to the 2030 targets, and how can I, as an individual, employee, business leader, or whatever role I might have at that sense, create an impact, influence my context in order to improve and make progress and achievements.
And I think the partnership with Kairos is one unorthodox way to start educating around real-time emissions using the data we have from satellite images today through that partnership. And it's a starting point. And it's also something that could be incorporated in every weather channel in every part of the world. We're looking at doing this with weekly updates, and we have already done it at the point of purchase, in the shopping malls, during Stockholm Plus 50 in Stockholm. Our brilliant innovation lab and their team working together with our impact team, educating the many around the different impact verticals, bringing this to life. Also, Times Square in New York during Climate Week, the opening of the General Assembly, at the very heart of commerce, introducing data that makes impact readily available and, we hope, understandable in order to see, are we on the right track or not? It's funny that my perception and my experience is that national governments are not doing this. There is no way to check, are we doing the right things? Are we doing things right? What is progress? We also did this in London during London Climate Week. And this is an example of our innovation ambition to forge unorthodox alliances, bringing payment cards to the market with the UN and with MasterCard as partners, bringing real-time impact data, emissions data, working with Kairos and commercial digital billboards providers, with the only ambition to educate everyone around what impact can look like. Then, of course, you need to decide what, how, and if to act on it. I think there is a beautiful Jean-Paul Sartre quote that said, once you know and are aware, you can choose to do something, or you can choose to do nothing, but you're still aware. So we would like to bring to you a few key takeaways and potentially also a bit of Q&A in the end in order to challenge all of our statements here. It's a way of keeping us on the toes and to keep us developing our methodologies and services going forward. So, key takeaways. Katarina, what do you say?
Yeah, starting with activating or providing tools for citizens in 151 countries to know their carbon footprint through the lifestyle calculator. Easily available, quite speedy to just enter the survey and get your footprint. And that's just to act from there. So it's a baseline. I would say it's like a BMI of the CO2e. We also today see over 2 billion transactions calculated through our API to the Åland Index, setting the standard for comparable data on transaction and spending, setting the bench to compare to in regard of your spending and the calculations connected to each and every transaction.
With all on index, making every transaction count, we think that we have a dialogue in the making. And with 2 billion transactions, that's quite an intense dialogue, I would say.
23 million plus exposed to the 2030 forecast in Stockholm, London, and New York. And of course, that's only the start of the journey. We hope to expose this everywhere through many channels, and also to start talking about it, to engage and create awareness around emissions data, and to increase the literacy around emissions data, so that we have something to create insights from, to create action from, and that we have a shared language that is also comparable, that we speak and talk about apples and not apples and bananas.
So on this note, working together with the very committed team of UNDP in Tokyo and Mitsui in Tokyo and the Japanese market, we're hoping to see this go live short term also in Japan and beyond. Anyone interested in providing this as a starting point could definitely reach out and be happy to have that conversation. I know our innovation team are thrilled to bring this idea further and to also see how it can illustrate the change that we need to see in a much needed way. So, looking at the Restore platform, this is a few examples of the companies looking into mobility, looking into renewable energy, where they become a guiding tool in transparency by providing their data, providing their ambition to reduce in a comparable fashion to the average in the industry. The Restore is probably a platform where like-minded can meet, where the blame game of the consumer and the producer can end, and where mutual ambitions can be set. We see today a supply side looking for comparability, looking for consistency, but it's scattered, and all of these data points are more of opinions. That's why we are always working with the leading data in the market, working with Standard & Poor's Trucost, working with EcoInvent, working with Ernst & Young, vetting all of our methodologies. This is not a fantasy child. This is what is used in every decision being made on the planet with the leading data provided to the fingertips of the consumer.
And the SME, the important players of the world. So many that wants to take climate actions, so many as half of them having strategies on how to take climate actions, but only 8% that we see can measure their footprints and really eager to get access to tools that is easily available, easily to understand, and to underline their action and strategies and plan and create results from that.
Yeah, so all of that we have presented up until now is, of course, a collaborative effort. Many has been invited to participate, and many has stepped up to this challenge. We have today a team of over 100 people working out of Stockholm, Tokyo, New York, San Francisco, Milano, Madrid, Munich. I think we even have a person in the basement in Munich pulling his weight, doing everything he can to educate the many, for each and everyone's kid to grow up on a planet that is better taken care of than the one that we're seeing today. And I'm sure I missed a city or two there, but what we're aiming to do is to democratize access through engaging tools and design that will close this intention-action gap. But it is an exploratory journey. There is no quick fix. There is no one single source, no one single solution. There is no silver bullet. A smart person once said to me, Mathias, you need to understand that the only silver bullet is action now. Action now by each and everyone. And action now requires insights, and insights we aim to accelerate by providing data, triggering those, leading into action that is both tangible and measurable. closing the intention-action gap, working with leading behavioral change science in order to get it done. But there is regional and geographical differences. We need to be mindful around this fact. We spent a lot of time during COP27 engaging with a lot of young entrepreneurs on the African continent. We had brilliant conversations. And one said, but if we don't have the data, if we don't have digital, then what do we do? And we don't have a great answer to that, because we built our whole ambition around digital tools and data. So we need to understand that there is different perspectives on this. We need to understand that the 10% need to reduce now and need to reduce a lot. And that is a starting point as well. Looking at transparency driving this responsibility, both for people and for planet. And as we said earlier, we're not preaching to the choir. This is not really a presentation for COP27. Everyone at COP27 probably gets this. It's about getting it done. It's not about getting it at all. And that's why we always say, and we always try to have people understand that every action counts. That we don't need a few people to do everything, but we need all people to do something. And that is why I'm extremely proud to work with Katarina and everyone else on the Doconomy team and all of our partners, finding the change makers in these organizations that look to see tangible progress, measurable progress, and more than anything else, rapid progress, 86 months. If we can be the educational factor, if we can be the provider of action-driven insights, we think that the multiple of this is tremendous. But it's only going to happen through partnerships. No man is an island. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.
And we'd like to open up for a few questions. If you have any really tough ones, you ask Katarina. And if you have very, softballs, you can ask me. I think we have a mic also in the audience. Thank you.
Thank you so much for the presentation. I'm Wei Ying. I'm a corporate sustainability consultant from Taiwan, currently based in the Netherlands. I'm happy to see you are the partner with OBank from Taiwan and also ABN AMRO in the Netherlands. Excellent banks. So my question is that I saw you have product for calculating product impact and also life cycle assessment. And I'm curious about what's the methodology you're based on. I saw you have developed your own emission factors, but since those data are provided from the company, basically voluntarily, how do you make sure all the data is transparent and honest?
I think that's actually a very important question, and thank you for your kind words. It's a very important question if the companies are honest, because that's basically what sums up all of the need for transparency, scrutiny, the methodology being comparable with others. So there is a few things I would like to say to that. We are not the environmental police. We are not telling people right from wrong in regard of how their data is constructed. In order to get comparability, we provide comparable data instead, working with EcoInvent on material level, material impact data, working with Google data in regard to transportation and logistics, working at readily available energy mix data from the different regions of the world, which is picking up rapidly. So those are open sources. EcoInvent is not an open source, but we are providing that data at our cost because we think it's a very important component in getting this conversation going. Around methodology, there's one thing I think is important that is not going to be ISO or PEF compliant. That's something we need to think about because, of course, we would like to be, but there is also an inflection point, and that is that we're calculating cradle to gate, not cradle to grave. Because if we calculated gate to grave, we would take averages for usage and afterlife from people around the world that probably might be more mindful about how they take care of their goods in order to make it last longer. So we have been very reluctant to using that kind of average data because we want you to make a difference and to understand how you can make a difference. So that is a very important point. I think that we will see over time this language of product level impact getting more and more confirmed, and I think that the Product Environmental Footprint Initiative within the EU is going to lead the way in that sense. And we're working a lot with PLM providers in order to help them help their clients calculate their efforts. Are we going to say that you're doing right or if you're doing wrong? No, because we can't. Because if you enter the wrong data into the calculator in order to get a lower impact score, I think the problem is not the data. The problem is with your perspective on what transparency is. So that's why we're not saying, we can only commit to saying, this product has been calculated on the 2030 calculator according to these principles, using these data sources. If everyone is doing that, those calculations will be fully comparable. If you want to play the system, I'm sure there will always be people playing the system. I actually think a lot of people has played the system getting us into this climate crisis to begin with. So let's see peer pressure, let's see transparency, and let's see the competitor keeping them aligned, I would say. But thank you for your very good question.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. My name is Vassar Seidel. I just have a quick question. I heard you guys mention that I guess the data is purely for education's sake. Would you ever consider being in a space where you could attach actions to, once you inspire people, once you educate people, then have part of your platform have samples of actions or plug and play other actions that you can take? Thank you.
Do you want to answer? I think that that's obviously somewhere we need to get to. So you're absolutely right. And I think that what we have been focusing on now is getting the minus side of the T account right. So we understand what drives impact, what does impact look like. Then on the next level, we need to move over to the other side of things out of a traditional bookkeeping perspective and looking at what drives positive impact. How can I contribute? How can I make my money work for good instead of being invested through different schemes into weapons or fossil or something else that I might not want to see my pensions invested in? What's the point? Having pensions invested in was ruining the planet at the time that you're going to enter into a pension. So that side is definitely super, super relevant. And I think we will approach this quite rapidly. I think that I was talking before about the demand and the supply side. And the demand side are really eager to see comparability, consistency, and regulatory compliance potential. And regulatory will need to catch up with commercial interest. But commercial interest is probably going to lead the way in different parts of the world. And then the regulatory interest in that same part is probably going to influence the regulatory in every other part of the world, because that's what consistency looks like. But the positive effect, connecting the positive and the negative, that's absolutely the most interesting and inspiring relationship that I can see in my professional life today. I think there is plenty of ways to do that, and I think Doconomy is well on its way to do that in some parts, but there is obviously going to be many, many, many more. And it's also about understanding that no, it's not going to be business as usual. It's going to be business as needed to be in order to get us out of this. So I hope that's maybe an answer to your question. Okay, so I think we're done. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
And thank you, everyone looking at the stream as well.
Have a good day.
Ciao.